Now, so again, what would be the first step for someone? Where should they start?
The first step is to contact voc rehabilitation and say you're interested in the services through voc rehab. You don't have to be specific to what service because most of the offices, you have to go through a 4 hour, I don't know,
Assessment.
assessment
Okay.
seminar. They'll send you a test that you have to take prior to your, uh, prior to going to that appointment. So you got to make sure you do that. And then when you go in, you need to have the application, which I share. I don't have the phone number off the top of my head. You need to have that application submitted. So you should have an idea of what it is you want to do. Because they'll bring the group in, they'll do this assessment, and then they'll break you off into individual counselors. And then at that point is the vital. That's your first appointment. And you need to be prepared because that's when you go in there and you're selling your ideal on what track, if it's self-employment or one of the other tracks, what you want to do and why. And that's when you're talking to that counselor about that. Then they'll pull up and they'll look at your assessment and they'll say, remember the first time I went, well, you're qualified for these other type of things, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm not interested in those other type of things. This is what I want to do. So it's based on your interest, so they'll discourage you and then you just have to sell yourself to your counselor.
Would that be the same thing, Rafa? What you experience in the OJT track? What would be some of the steps?
Pretty much. It did go exactly like Renona said. I contacted vocational rehab, made the appointment, walked into a conference room with probably 20 other veterans, waited for my name to be called out. When I eventually got back with my counselor, like I said earlier, I already had a plan to go forward. I had an idea what I wanted to address and how I wanted to sell it to her. Renona's right. This isn't something that you go into thinking, I'll just ask them if they can help me start my business. They want to know that it's got legs, that it has some kind of foundation under it. There's a lot of resources out there for veterans. And sometimes it's almost like information overload. There's just so much out there. And Renona and I both went to different training that we know it was a federally funded event, but to walk away with something that was valuable, that was kind of questionable. When you go in, you talk to your vocational rehabilitation counselor, let them know that you're working towards that goal, whatever it is. In my case, it was to get into the construction field. In Renona's case, it was human resources. And I'm sure there's some veterans out there that would like to start a brewery, or they want to do an eBay store or graphic arts or something like that. Sure. So go with that plan and help them realize the end point that you're going towards. Don't go in and say, I just need you to help me, because they have a really heavy workload. I've seen where the goal is one counselor to 125 veterans, but I understand a lot of them have more than that. So when you go in, have that end goal in your mind when you're talking to them. I think the reason they prefer academics is because that's a tried and true avenue that a lot of veterans use, but
right.
And even with that.
Well, it's tried and true in terms of, I guess you could effectively you can achieve receiving a degree, right? So that's the only tried and true portion of it. But in terms of workforce or employment or needs or compensation for being paid, that's no longer tried and true.
Absolutely. And the thing with veterans is when you get out of the military, the Montgomery Bill was a great educational program. I mean, you go to college and you receive E5 stipend. That's a very good allowance to have. So a lot of vets will leave the military and they'll begin their college, and it will be like a job, but the end is not a guarantee. There are other programs, and if you look back at the one that I followed, the OJT, they also have apprenticeship, which is brilliant, because
apprenticeship is wonderful. I think that's the way to go. Apprenticeship.
absolutely,
Yeah. Especially if you're going to go into a trade like air conditioning or electrical or carpentry, things like that.
absolutely.
That's the way to go versus education.
Absolutely. And one of the really sweet things that I found out, I've been putting in bids, and one of my areas is elevator maintenance. You don't even need a college degree, and you're looking at 80K plus as an apprentice. So and why not go that route?
Right.
I mean, we're short in the crafts in America.
We are.
So, and it's something that vocational rehab will help you follow. I did the OJT because there's a lot of paperwork involved with being a contractor,
Sure.
and we've had that conversation where,
Right.
how many businesses want to sit there and write the solicitation and make sure we're compliant with DFARS and, understand that our cybersecurity is on point and all that. So, that happens to be my sweet spot. So I enjoy doing it, but I also like construction. So, but it's hard, it's hard to do a demo and then do a solicitation and then, make sure your crew's out there painting when they need to
That's
be.
tough. Yeah. No,
And the roofers are using the right kind of screws, so to stay on top of it. But I do think the apprenticeship program with the vocational rehab it might be underutilized. I think it's a great way to go forward.
wow. Apprenticeship program.